Richard Morrish previously made some bold claims about the yen and Swiss franc, and in this part of the interview he turns his attention to the US economy. With QE2 due to finish at the end of this year's second quarter, he still thinks US policymakers have some major problems to deal with.
Biggest problem that they've got in America is that when they come to the end of QE2, that is going to create a big drop in the balance sheets or the profitability of the major American banks, because at the moment the Fed sits there and says borrow short on 0.5% interest rate and you can lend back to me long on 4% interest rates. You know, that's money for old rope, and the banks, the US banks have been told, and by the way, you can do that on 5 times leverage because we don't mind. That's what's been rebuilding the US balance sheet.
So do you think that's still the big danger for the global economy, is the state of the US economy? You still think that they still haven't got their house in order yet? The
fundamental problem that America developed was post 9/11. They went into a massive easing of fiscal policy, and it was massive, and that was under Greenspan's leadership, but led by Bernanke, because Bernanke was saying, you know, this dot-com bust, the economic crisis we've got post 9/11, we're here. The only way we'll tackle it is by reducing interest rates. What they did was they then created a lending splurge of just unbelievable proportions. He's now tackling that problem in exactly the same way. We borrow more to get out of debt. Well, we're already in it and we're getting bigger into it. I think America could be stuck in a up-down economy now for the next 20 years.
There's big political problems, aren't there, in America? There might be the will from, say, Barack Obama to fix it, but the people behind him, there's all this squabbling between the Republicans and the Democrats. The two houses are now split. Is there any sign that he could push through some sort of reform of the whole system?
I believe his catchphrase was, yes, we can, and the answer is no, he can't. The realistic way that America will be able to tackle this is if they actually turn around and they start to raise interest rates and reflect real risk within their economy. The markets will ultimately do this for them, whether it's this year or next year or the year after. At some point, America is going to come very much the focus. The problems within Europe, to be perfectly frank, are small in comparison to the US. The US's greatest advantage, of course, was that it's the world reserve currency. There's now a lot of, and certainly when I was at BIS in 2008, 2009, and attending the conferences there and talking to central bankers there, their view of it was very much that they are very uncomfortable with the US dollar as the global single world reserve currency. I think you can see with the build-up of euro reserves that the euro stepped in as a surrogate second world reserve currency. The yuan is now moving to further down that progress. We're not anywhere close to yuan becoming free float, but we are getting down that road. Will they be part of a new global world currency reserve? They've already applied to the IMF for SDR status and been part of the basket. That's one of the first stages before you go free flow. America has got, I think, has got a lot of problems, and the only way it's going to tackle them is by changing economic policy and changing focus. It's going to be painful, to be perfectly frank.
If the growth in the US is very sluggish and they don't get their house in order, can there ever be a situation where the global economy can thrive and survive? Can the Eurozone cope without a strong US economy?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think this, if you look at the Eurozone itself, the majority of its trade, or its biggest single trading partner, is actually the Southeast Pacific region. America now makes a very much smaller percentage of what it was. It used to be a lot larger. Now it's not so. So can Europe survive it? Yes, it can. But it's got to do some structural reforms within what the Eurozone is made. But what manufacturing is within the Eurozone is actually high-end, high quality, which is the kind of product that the Chinese themselves at the moment can't replicate. I keep saying to people, you know, you look back at Japan, in the 60s and 70s, everybody used to laugh about their motorbikes, they used to laugh about their cars in the 60s and 70s, and yet now their quality branding is as good as anything that was made in Europe, and is as good as anything made in America. In fact, it's a lot better than what's made in America, but that's a commentary about General Motors and Ford. But the reality of it is that China is in the first steps of this. We're yet to go and see the real impact of China getting up to start making high-end goods. They are importing a lot of it. A lot of it comes from Europe rather than the US. The US is a lot of its exports are primarily in aeroplanes. China is already starting making their own aeroplanes, and they're making them as well, if not better than the Americans do.
Richard Morrish there, speaking from the offices of Peak Partners in Geneva. Stay tuned for more news and views here on Dukascopy TV. Goodbye for now.